So this happened to a couple friends and me about 6 years ago, the first summer we were all back from college. We were being hooligan kids who had each gotten into weed a little bit in college. We decided to go to the state park near my one friend's house late at night and smoke. For the sake of the story, I'll give a bit of a layout. We parked at the end of this dead end on a wooded road where a path started that led into the park from the back. The park is heavily wooded, with a lake and some recreational areas on the side with the main entrance. The path we were on went parallel to the edge of a large field, with a couple yards of trees between. A little ways down, there was a small gap to access the field. We had stopped in the big field next to the tree line near the gap that led back to the path we walked in on. There was a rock there, and my one friend began to use it to prepare the fun stuff. It was a really cloudy night, and the only thing we could see were what we lit up with our phones. After a couple of minutes, we hear something moving in the trees a bit further, maybe 30 feet away. I've always been overly paranoid and instantly went to the worst, but my friends figured it was a squirrel. A minute later, we hear it again, closer and louder. I say, "Sounds kinda heavy. You think it's a deer?" More to calm myself down. "Maybe," one of them says. That's when the sound picks up. We all froze and put away our lights. We had all grown up in wooded areas and spent a lot of time hiking and whatever else. We know what it sounds like when someone is walking in the woods, or at least what that might sound like. If it was a person, they were walking slowly still, but were way closer than I would have preferred. That's what really got to me too. What animal would walk towards people? I got a surge of anxiety and kind of blurted out, "It sounds like a person." On fucking cue, whoever it was starts running at us through the trees, and one of my friends yells, "Run!" And we do. We started running full speed across a field of tall grass, and the whole time we hear the guy running behind us. A minute of running brought us to a tall rock dam, which prevents the field from flooding, and we began to climb, furiously tripping and scrambling over the rocks to the other side of the rock dam, and we run into the woods that ran next to the road we parked on. We got a little ways in, and we sat together in the dark, absolutely still and silent. We hear nothing, but don't break our silence or move a muscle for about half an hour. Then we creep through to the edge of the road, unfortunately a ways past my friend's car. After 5 more minutes of building the courage, we ran to the car and waited for my friend to unlock his door so he could unlock the back door. Honestly, maybe the most terrifying moment of the ordeal. And we got the heck out of there. However, when my friend began to back up and his headlights lit a little ways into the path in front of us, we caught a shadowed figure of somebody walking down the path. So, squirrel or deer or whoever had chased us, let's never meet for real. This happened to me the day before yesterday. My husband had just picked me up from work. We currently just have one car, and we were on our way home. As we were going up the hill we live on, we came around a curve and saw some shirtless guy in blue jeans walking towards the trash cans at the end of a driveway. Naturally, I assumed he was just throwing something away. As we got closer though, he looked right at us and his face was blank and his eyes were glazed. Then he just started walking really fast out into the road right in front of our car. My husband hit the brakes and the dude just stood there in front of us. My window was rolled halfway down because we were having nice weather that day. Before I could say anything, the dude starts walking up to my window, to which I instantly think, nope, and I roll my window up. He was clearly high off his ass, so I wasn't messing with that. He was muttering something as he walked towards my window, but I couldn't quite make out what he was saying. I'm pretty sure it was something along the lines of, "Man, fuck you," or something of that nature. As I was rolling up the window, he grabbed the door handle and started yanking on it, trying to open my door. Not lightly pulling on it, but like he was trying to rip the handle off. I just managed to get out, "What the fuck?" Then I looked at my husband, who was watching him, clearly caught off guard by the whole thing. I yelled at my husband, "What are you doing? Drive! Go!" To which he jumped and snapped out of it and drove away. The druggy dude just stood in the middle of the road, watching us drive away. As we drove off, I could see a few more people standing in the grass by the road where he was standing. I don't know if they were on something too or what. They just stood there and watched. Not the creepiest or scariest, but when people are impaired by whatever the hell they're on, you never know what they may try to do or how they're going to react to something or someone. So yeah, bye, druggy dude. I mentioned before that I would share this experience. I just haven't gotten around to it. So here goes. About 2 months ago, my friend and I made plans to hang out. She's been my best friend for more than 10 years. I'm a year older. She used to break down in crowded places and was bullied when we were in school together, so I am fiercely protective of her. Seriously, you fuck with this girl, you fuck with me. The state we live in has a high rate of human trafficking, which makes me even more vigilant and particularly sensitive to this event. Our favorite mall is a great place to hang out on weekdays, as it's not particularly crowded. That's the way we like it. There's so much to do there that when we go, we usually pick a movie time and spend the time before it shopping, snacking, exploring. We were there all day. She was pretty aloof that day. I, however, felt on edge and unfriendly. I'm usually not like that, but chalked it up to just being a bit cranky after getting rained on. My mom has drilled into me to always be aware of my surroundings, and I've always been good at remembering names and faces, so when we saw people in the mall more than once, I usually remembered when I saw them, how many times I saw them, and where I saw them. Bestie and I stopped at one of the shops to get smoothies, and we sat down at the table to take a rest. It's a big mall, and we were walking all day, so I welcomed the rest. While we were in line, I saw a man cut through the shop and walk behind us. The shop was a corner shop with open entryways, so when I say cut through, he walked between us and a pillar. I became tense and immediately checked to make sure I hadn't been pickpocketed. I had all my stuff, so I tried to relax. We were waiting for our drinks to be made, and I saw the man walk by us again, this time slower, and around the pillar. There was nothing particularly scary about him. Average height, build, kind of a dad-looking bod, jeans, dark button-up, short haircut, but I immediately just wanted him to go away. I told Bestie that I would grab us a table. I sat where she and I could see one another while we waited on our drinks. I kept my eyes on her in case he came back. While she was getting our drinks, I saw the guy come back. This time, not alone, with 2 other men. They seemed similar in age, all 3 wearing jeans, one in a denim jacket and a hat, the other in a white shirt with a gold chain on his neck, and the cologne they wore was overwhelming. They kind of made me think of middle-aged men who go to clubs and hit on girls. However, my internal voice was screaming, "These guys are fucking pimps." Bestie joined me at the table, and we immediately started on our drinks and cookies we bought at our favorite cookie shop. I relaxed a moment, and while I was happily munching away, guess who comes around the corner again? I wait until they pass, and then I lean and tell Bestie what's going on. Me, don't be alarmed, but those guys keep walking by us. Bestie, what guys? As she's asking, they come around the corner again. Me, whispering, them. We both remain quiet until they pass. Now that we're together, they slow down when passing our table. This makes me think that either she's their intended target or they just think now that we're together, we'll be distracted. I try not to alarm her, but I've seen these same guys hanging around other stores we've been in that day. She watches them go and is quiet a moment. Bestie says, "Don't overthink it, Loopy. Maybe they're just mall walkers." Me, unconvinced, maybe. She tries to cheer up by talking about the movie we plan to see and how she's happy we can get into a dine-in theater. I know this is her way of trying to protect me by distracting me, but while she's double checking showtimes, all I can think of is how my mom told me to use an umbrella as a weapon. I tried to smile and brush things off for both of our sakes, but while she's checking showtimes, guess who comes back around the corner? She's nose deep in her phone, so I turn my upper body towards them, scowling and making sure I look each of them in the eye as they walk by. I had my phone in my hands and got the sudden idea to hold it up like I was taking pictures or a video. The guys sped up a bit and White Shirt looked back at me as they went by. I watched until they were out of sight and we didn't see them again for the rest of the night. The mood improved, we had fun, but I broke down about it to my mom later. She assured me I did the best I could in the situation. But that night we came up with a danger code in case I ever was snatched from somewhere. So, creepy mall walkers, who I'm not convinced were just mall walkers, let's not meet, and if you touch my best friend, you'll have to kill me before I kill you. This is by far the creepiest thing that has ever happened to me. It's a long story, but it's worth it. I am a female, and at the time of this story, I was 24 years old. I have a medical condition that requires me to do frequent blood draws. On this day, I went to the same lab I always go to and checked in. I told the receptionist my name, confirmed my birthday, and confirmed my zip code. That was it. Some days I confirmed my street name or my full address, but not that day. I was then put in the waiting room for a while, before I got called back by a nurse and had my blood drawn. Important to note that there were probably 10 other patients waiting in the room. I paid no attention to any of them. After my blood was drawn, I left the building and walked to my car, which was in a parking garage. When I pulled out of the parking garage, I noticed a car in front of me with a weird vanity plate. I turned out of the garage and started my 20-minute drive home. My drive involves a highway, a major road, and a few neighborhoods and side roads. A few minutes into my drive, I realized the car from the parking garage was still in front of me. This isn't weird because I was on the highway and the other car was clearly going in the same direction. But once the car turned onto the major road, I started thinking that it was really unusual for someone to make those same two turns. But I wasn't freaked out yet. I did, however, decide to stop turning on my turn signals just to see what would happen. Eventually, the car turned onto a side street, the same one I was turning onto. A few minutes later, he turns into my neighborhood, then down my street. I'm a little freaked out at this point, and I make a decision that I'm not going to pull into my driveway and just circle back after driving through the neighborhood a bit. As we reach my house, I don't slow down, but the car in front of me does. He turns his turn signal on to show that he's turning, and he turns into my driveway. At this point, I'm freaking out. I don't know what's happening, and I know it could be a coincidence, but I was scared. I kept driving, and I called my dad, who was home from work that day because he was sick. Thank heavens. He said he would go outside and check. By the time I get back around to my house, there is a maybe 50-year-old male standing in the front yard with my father. They are talking. I park in the street and stand back a bit. I can hear the man telling my dad he's sorry. He thought this house was a nursing home and he was coming to visit a friend who lived there. My dad told him he was mistaken. The guy laughed and said okay, before turning to walk back to his car. At this point, I'm starting to walk through my front lawn so I can be closer to my dad as the man walked away from my house. The man sees me do this, takes several steps towards me, and says in a really eerie way, "I love your red hair. It's stunning. My favorite." He reached his arm out towards me like he wanted me to walk over to him. But I darted over to my dad and held on to him, like a freaking child, but I was scared. The man then walked to his car, got in, and drove away. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what happened in this situation, and I've come to the conclusion that whatever happened could not have been a coincidence, and this man was definitely following me for malicious reasons. I'm not exactly sure how he got my address, but it's possible he had followed me home before, or had been stalking me for some time. I lived with my dad for a few months after this occurrence, and I never saw the mystery man or the mystery car again. So yeah, guy that somehow followed me home and then disappeared, let's not meet again.